Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Joe La Rosa podcast. I'm super excited to be joined here by two guests today, the founding partners of Forrest Lake Law. So, Josué Merino.
Thanks for having me.
Carlos Martin.
Thank you for having me.
So, guys, man, you guys excited to be here?
Man. Yeah. You know, who's gonna see? I mean, we asked the boss if we could have the cigars.
I know, man. So just for the record, they came with some really nice cigars, and I'm a little bit upset right now because technically I am the landlord here, but I'm concerned. We have something up on the ceiling, and I don't know if it's gonna set the sprinklers off here and kind of mess up all of our equipment. But I'm gonna be very excited to figure out how we can still try to enjoy this. But
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. So, all right, guys. So, right off the bat, you're dressed like an attorney. You're kind of laid back.
I took your thing that you don't like wearing suits.
That's
so
right.
I'm like, I'm gonna come in a little bit more relaxed. I didn't tell him, so he could. Typically, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Typically, I'm suited up and he's not.
Yeah.
So I said, let's flip it a little bit.
You even got the Batman and Joker socks.
I got the Batman socks.
Yeah.
I got that's my thing.
Yeah. So listen. I love messing around with you guys. Obviously, not too long ago we were at our Legacy event and seeing you guys there. So, you know what? I gotta have you come on the show. So, right off the bat, why don't you guys just tell the audience here a little bit about yourselves and kind of how you guys kind of decided to come together as partners, and really how long has Forrest Lake Law been around?
So we've been open for 7 years now. We just celebrated 7 year in March. And before this, he was my boss.
Oh yeah,
I love that part of the story.
Yeah,
that's the great part of the story.
It's always important to remember.
He was my boss. We were working at a different firm. He was a partner over there, and I worked there for about a year, and then things just happened.
Right.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to open up my own firm. And I went to him first, and I talked to him. I'm like, look, I'm leaving. I can't stay. No, you gotta stay, because in this year we had really grown the business, and we were doing really good. And I'm like, I can't. I just can't. The person that was in charge
just had enough.
Just had enough. And that's okay. It happens. So my last day there, he takes me out, and we went drinking, and we just kept drinking. I know this is a horrible part of the story, but at a certain point, I'm like,
it's part of the story.
I'm like,
one old fashioned turns into two.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, he's not happy. I think I could take him with me. I think I could put. So I told him, I'm like, look, I told him because I had told everybody I was working at another firm.
Right.
And at that point, I'm like, look, man, I'm not working at another firm. I'm opening up my own thing. I'm looking for a partner. If you know somebody that wants to partner up, be a true 50-50 partner, because he wasn't a true 50-50 partner. I'm like, we're ready to go. And he's like, well, let me think about it. And these things are important. We had certain issues at the firm that we were at. We had to pay for sodas. We had to pay for the water. We didn't have napkins.
Yeah.
And it was one of these things. I'm like, he had just brought it. The week before this happened, he had just brought a case for like $200,000.
Right.
And I'm like, and I had just brought one for like for 150. And I'm like, going to the soda and taking out 50 cents and putting it in the thing. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So,
man, so people actually charge for drinks?
Yeah. So
look at see what we do here.
No. So what I did is I left. I opened the office.
Yeah.
And I bought a fridge, one of these see-through fridges, filled it up. I sent a picture to him like, the attorneys at Forrest Lake Law don't pay for their sodas. And but a month and a half later, no, July 4th is when you officially, March I opened, July 4th is when he actually came. But during that time, we were already working together and doing things together. And it's, 7 years.
Yeah, well, it was a lot more than just sodas.
No.
And so on and so forth. But, everything happens for a reason. I was at a real estate firm and extremely grateful. Because when I started, it's very seldom that you graduate law school. I've been doing it for over 11 years, but this is 2010. At that time, you graduate law school one day, you get your bar license, and then you're in court the week later.
Right.
So I had enough trial experience in my first 2 years, because I was the only litigator. I had enough trial experience that there are 20 years attorneys who've never had as many trials as I had in a 2-year section. So I got a lot from it. It was, you know, a lot of work, you know, without the commensurate pay. You know, you always want to kind of say, hey, if I'm going to put in this work, put in this time, the piece of the pie should be commensurate to what I'm bringing in, so on and so forth. So it was more than just sodas. There was
a lot of issues. And once again, I don't speak ill of anybody. It's just she ran her business in a certain way, and that's okay. And we felt that we could do better. You know, we had a little bit of a revolving door with staff, and that was an issue because as an attorney, you really depend on your paralegals. You really depend on your staff. Yeah, of course. If the attorney that goes,
businesses,
of course,
the staff is key.
You know, if you're like, oh, I do it all myself, well, you ain't gonna be producing. Yeah, because you got to do, you know, the stuff that makes the office go. So that was very important to us, and a saying that Josué, you know, is the motto of our firm is we work to live. We work to live, not live to work. Yeah. You know, we want to go in, we want to work hard, we want to do what needs to be done, but we want to have fun. Yeah, we want to get out there and enjoy the fruits of our labor.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Yeah. So if I got you from what you just said, so you got graduated with law school in 2010?
I graduated in 10, and then 2011.
You started practicing.
Same thing. 10. Yeah, 10. And I took a little bit longer, actually. I graduated, and my wife got her dream job. Okay. She was a teacher, school counselor, became an assistant principal. Okay. At a chartered school, one of the best here in Florida. Right. Really good, and that's when I graduated. And they gave her the job, and she's like, and she had just had our first son. Yeah. And she's like, I want this job. I'm like, yeah, but I want to go. Right. And we're like, yeah, but who's going to take care of our kid? And we started looking around, and we saw these daycares, and they looked like prisons. And and she's like, well, I'm not giving up the job. And I'm like, well, you put up through me. You put up for 3 years of law school. Yeah. I'll stay. So
you were stay-at-home dad for
I stayed home for about 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 4 years. And then once he was ready to go, she's like, I'm done. So we tag team. Now she's homeschooled. She's been homeschooling our kids for the last 10 years or 9 years. Cool. And then I'm like, okay, I'm coming in. Then I came in, and I always knew I wanted my own business. My dad is a dentist, has always had his own business, but I'm like, let me learn at somebody else's feet. Yeah. Let me learn from somebody. So I took one job at a big, mid-size personal injury firm, because that's one of the things I specialize in. And then 1 year, and then I went to work with Josué. Right. And then after that, we opened up. But the funny thing is, we went to competing law schools, and we actually met.
Where'd you go?
I went to FAMU.
Okay. I went to Barry.
He went to Barry. Okay. So that's
Barry in South Florida?
No, actually, well, Barry is in South Florida. The university, but the law school is here.
Okay. Over there. Same thing with FAMU. They're in Tallahassee.
All right. But the law school's over here.
The law school's over here.
Florida. Okay.
So we met. We had several interactions, even though we didn't know each other. Right. It was an interesting thing. He was president of the Hispanic Club. I was involved with
HALSA, Hispanic American Law Student Association.
Yeah. So tell us about Forrest Lake then. So what do you guys specialize in? Because you guys do a few different things there, right?
We do. I think in reality, I would say the easiest way to put it is that we are civil litigation attorneys. Right. We do nothing criminal or nothing immigration. So those would be the major three branches of law per se. Yeah. But in the civil realm, like I said earlier, I do the real estate, and real estate has a bunch of subcomponents, right? That could be everything from commercial property management to landlord-tenant to foreclosure defense to foreclosing on a property because you are the investor who owes a mortgage. So could be as simple, or not simple, but could be anything to quiet and title to property boundary disputes. So anything and everything real estate and subcomponent definitely would be what I call specialty. Now, so going back to the story, that's what I did. That's what I've been doing. But I also did bankruptcy, which is very interconnected with real estate in some ways, and family law. Family law got thrust upon me because the attorney that was there, her father was passing. So she's like, listen, I love the law, I love this, that, and the other, but these might be my father's final days. I got to go.
Yeah.
And then that means there's 40 clients with no attorneys to do family law. So I learned family law literally on the spot, and took a liking to it, and now that's kind of part of the domain. So real estate was kind of the first love, and then family law was out of necessity. But kind of grouped into
family
it.
law gets kind of like intense though at times, right? It gets kind of emotional.
Yeah, so we both do family law.
I mean,
and we tell people or students or interns is like, if you want to have trial experience, you have two ways to do it. You could go work for the PD, in the state, criminal, or you could do family, because you're always in court. You're always fighting over the pettiest and stupidest. Not stupidest things. There's just some things that are like, oh my God, you're really fighting about this? We had a client one time, actually a good friend of the family, and they're fighting over everything. The guy has this 911 Porsche racing, special. They only made...
Hold on, Carlos. I'm going to go ahead and stop you right now.
Yeah.
You're going into facts
Too much.
that the dots could be connected.
That's true. The point is, she wanted the car. She wanted the car. He's like, I want to keep the car. I'm giving her everything. Give her the house. Just let me keep the car. No, I'm not going to let you keep the car. Well, they're fighting. Eventually, we go to court and we're going to fight this.
Yeah.
And the attorney on the other side goes, we can't fight. We got to stop. Why? Oh, she has cancer. Oh my God. Oh, this is horrible.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't go to the hearing. Josué covers for me. He comes back. It's like, Carlos, we're going to postpone this for at least 6-7 months. We're going to come back. She might be dead.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, lo and behold, they're friends. So somebody from the family comes to me and says, hey, how's everything going? And I apologize, but I did say, hey, I can't tell you anything. I'm sorry. It's like, but I know she has cancer. No, she doesn't. What do you mean she doesn't have cancer?
She faked cancer?
She faked cancer.
Ooh.
Yeah. They say that criminal law is bad people acting at their at their best, and then family is good people acting at their worst. And there's nothing sure. Our job is to remember the objectivity of it all.
Correct.
Because mind you, we have to deal with there's assets and there's a child custody battle, but a lot of that energy seeps down to the kids.
Sure, of course.
And as much as attorneys, we love to make money, sure, but not at the expense of the family. I mean, I can go through a line of cases. I had a case most recently. The major asset that, in this particular case, that the wife wanted to keep was the house that owed $130,000. But it also had $500,000 in equity. That husband was like, listen, I'm not trying to give all of that up.
Yeah.
Give me like 100 and then refinance. Like, well, I don't know. You should pay for it, da-da-da-da-da. By the end of it, now fast forward, to make a long story short, $130,000 house dispute. She spent $160,000 on her attorney, of which the judge did not award her a penny back. And my client ended up spending over $75,000. So combined, they spent $200,000, which eventually came from draining of 401ks, draining of IRAs, draining of savings, completely ruined the business. He was a general contractor. They sold like 3 properties.
Right.
All of this fight, at the end of the day, for a $130,000 loan, they could have paid off. And then, the house did get sold. They now went from having a net positive equity in their net worths were positive going in, and were negative going out.
Yeah.
And that's something that I always highlight at the beginning. That's not even. I would love to say that is few and far between, but that is a very common occurrence.
It's the norm.
Yeah.
It's because of the spite or whatever the reason. Now remember, and just for your viewers, Florida is a no-fault state.
Right.
So one of the biggest issues that I have is that we have a very Latino, the market that does come has preconceived notions of, she abandoned the house or she cheated on me and infidelity and all these things. I'm like, unfortunately or fortunately in Florida, a no-fault state, none of that comes into account.
Right.
You can get divorced by simply stating that your marriage is irretrievably broken. And with that said, all of these things that seem to be like, well, what if I told the judge that he cheated on me? Or what if I told the judge that, he was this way to me? It's like, he left the house, he left us. They're factors, but they're not super factors.
Sure.
And if that begins to drive the reasoning and people feel that they're right or entitled, you get a $160,000 legal tab on one side and $81,000 on the other, and then the $130,000 house that could have been paid off and everyone could have had their way is now gone. And the worst part, in my opinion, is, Dad was soccer coach, and because of all this now, child doesn't want to talk to dad. He's 16. The youngest one is the only one that goes back and forth.
No, it's sad to see how these type of situations can basically just destroy a family right down.
Well, there's two things that I do, and I know Josué does them too. Is the first thing I ask a question when they come to me if there's kids involved. I'm like, is he a good dad or is she a good mom? Well, yes. Well, then why do you want full custody?
Yeah.
Oh, well, and then of course it turns out to be about the money, which is sad. And then the last thing I tell them, I'm like, well, here's the thing, okay? The kids are, let's say, 4 or 5, and I tell them, so what's going to happen when they graduate from preschool? Who's going to be there? Well, he's going to be there. What about 8th grade? He's there. Parent-teacher conference, he's there. Graduation, he's there. College, he's there.
Right.
Marriage, he's there. I'm like, you're stuck with this guy
or
this woman for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about that. So why are you going to make your life a living hell?
Sure.
If you're going to be stuck. Now, are there times that the person is, unreasonable on the other side and just a complete horrific person? That's where it comes this few and far in between. Most of the time, they're just reasonable people, and just because of the circumstance that's going on, then it turns nasty.
Yeah.
But eventually, time heals everything, and things get
sure.
better and things like that. So we try to tell our clients from the very beginning, it's like, you're going to be stuck with these people for a long time. Might as well make it as easy as possible on yourself.
Yeah, but let me take advantage. You have a lot of agents, realtors that'll be listening to this. So what I would think is important is that there's always going to be that occasion where, the split is happening, and somebody's going to want to keep the house. The emotional connection, that just, I want to do it. There's got to be somebody, usually it's the attorney, but in case they don't have an attorney, that has to say, well, separate your incomes. When you purchase this home, your debt to income ratio, your income was sufficient to handle that $2,000 mortgage.
Yeah.
But let's say mom, dad, whoever it is, let's think separately. All right, can you afford this home? Can you afford to refinance this home to buy out the other person, which would be a viable option that a judge would consider? Or if not, like, what is your plan to be able to maintain that mortgage? Now, add to that, the interest rate changes. Maybe years ago would have been easier at, back when 2, 3, 4, 5%. Nowadays, it's less possible. So it's good to have a realtor agent make, listen, here's the value. Here's what you can probably get, because just for your listeners, as they probably assume, there is a presumption, meaning it starts at 50-50. Right. You're going to get 50% of that equity, no matter what. That's what you're entitled to, so long as that property was acquired during the marriage. Another key point: it doesn't matter whose name is on the note, who's on the whose credit, as they say, it's under, is not a relevant part as to who the house will belong to or belongs to when it's all said and done. So let's just get that out of the way.
Because people come in with property already.
Sure.
And then they've been married for 20 years, and some people are like, well, yeah, but this was my house before I got married.
So that doesn't matter? So if you have an investment
Let me clean that up for you.
It depends.
Let me clean that up.
Let's give you a lawyer. It depends.
No. Okay. So, and here might be some tidbits that people fall in trouble. So the rule is very simple. Like, there's a very fine line of demarcation. You get married on January 2020, everything you acquire is presumed to be marital.
Right.
Everything I had before January 2020 is now separate property depending on who it belonged to. The issue becomes this, what we call commingling of joint funds. So let's say you did have an investment property, but it had a mortgage on it. Hopefully, this investment property was either one, it was rented and paid for itself. All right, that stays non-marital, never even comes into the equation of whether it's a split. The problem is, then you get married. And as is common for married persons, you start creating joint bank accounts. And out of that joint bank account, you now start paying for that property that was pre-2020. That is when that non-marital becomes marital.
Right.
Yeah.
All because you didn't have what we call tracing. Tracing is where you can say, oh, no. This money from the rent got deposited to this account paid that mortgage. Never did we, I love it. Lawyer, you bring that to me, I'm like, bless your heart. Yeah. We're not going to have to argue that this has a marital component. Because it's not like it automatically becomes 100% marital. It's just, let's say, in 2020 the property was worth 200 grand, but then in 2020, you know, in the future, you start commingling the payment, then that asset appreciated passively.
Yeah.
Nobody did anything. The market just rose for whatever reason, and now it went up 100 grand. So that 100 grand, which before would have been, no, that's 100. You get all that.
Right.
Now it becomes, well. You started using marital money to maintain that property.
Yeah.
So now through the marital effort, you now have to split that 100 to, now we're 50-50, and then the fight begins. So that is a huge point of distinction, because it could be as simple as, hey, keep it separate.
Yeah.
You know, we also do prenuptial
Yeah, that's prenups.
All that, right?
Prenups are
Yes.
very important. Prenups are very important because of that. Because it separates it gives you a clear line of demarcation.
Yeah.
And it helps you. I mean, we
And you have to educate the folks on the
So,
pros and cons of it.
yeah, so I recommend, in my case, I've been married 20 years.
Right.
I don't have a prenup, and my wife deserves every penny that I've made. She
Right.
helped me build this company. I
Right.
have no problem with that, okay? However, if I were to get divorced and get married again, I recommend a prenup.
Yeah.
Mr. Merino, who's never been married, he will be getting a prenup
Yeah.
the day he
Well,
decides to do that.
The reason prenups are also important, especially if you have business ventures. For example, I had a case, general contractor, and he gets into business, and he didn't sign an agreement, even if it's there's prenup, which means before you get married, and there's postnups, which means after you get married, we agree to these certain things. So he was 1/3 owner of a construction company, very successful in the sense that, you know, they're building 8 houses a year, and they had commercial remodeling, so they were doing fairly well. The problem came when she files a divorce. Then she starts recording lis pendens on all their ongoing properties. Now, mind you, at this time they'd sold 6, they had sold 5, they had 3 just ready to close, just built. Then she records lis pendens because although she's only a 1/6 owner, right? There's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3.
Right.
Half of one of the people's thirds, the husband in the case, was tied up in this divorce. She was able to record a lis pendens, which, as we know, in title in the real estate world, you have to clear that up. You have to clear that up in order to close on the property, and it just, you know, they did
It throws a monkey
settle.
wrench.
Yeah,
They settled, but all that money got left in escrow.
Yeah.
Now, these were 2 properties for $240,000, so $480,000. The way that they worked was basically they would, that's their operating, that's the money you would use to build the next property.
Yeah.
So by the time I got involved and got the money released, which ultimately I did, it took about 4 to 6 months. The partners were like, listen, we can't deal with this. Had they had that post-nup, like, it's hard to get into, because you never think it's going to happen.
Yeah. No,
You get into
of course,
business
of
with
course,
people who are
no.
married, who are the odds that,
Yeah.
that you're going to have
And
a
the thing is, you're married, you don't have no prenup.
Right now.
Okay? So you're married, you have no prenup. You can't go and buy a property right now without your spouse being on it.
Well, depending, you know, there's investment properties.
There's investment properties,
There's primary residences
but
and
that's
stuff like that.
going to be
But
attached.
Yeah.
And I know, we were just saying the brush strokes. Okay? That's going to be attached.
Yeah.
Okay? Any house that you buy, you know, it's going to be attached. It's going to be part of the thing. So, a lot of, especially for realtors, I tell them, are you going to be buying an investment? Are you going to be buying this? Yeah. Then get a prenup.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to go to title.
Or
Why is
postnup.
your wife?
You can have a postnup. So-
if you're not married.
we call it a post. It's just a property settlement agreement.
Yeah.
It's basically like, listen, and a lot of it, we're talking about the context of, hey, my business partners want the security so nobody messes with our business. I use it a lot in the context of, hey, you know what? Before we had this marriage, I had 2 kids, and you know, I also want to make sure my kids from my previous marriage are taken care of, and it all doesn't jump in.
Yeah.
And you know, if we get divorced, now you're taken away from things that I want to leave to my kids from my prior marriage,
Right.
so on and so forth. So there's a lot of
And if you go
tools.
another
for
example, and this is for our Puerto Rican community here, realtors in Puerto Rico, child support
Right.
is a yearly thing. They can come every year and reassess based on your salaries,
Wow.
things like that. And they added an added component. And we could also do your spouse.
Well, and again, I'm not.
Well, that's in Puerto Rico, not here.
Not here. But you have a lot of agents that are here.
That's what they think.
No. They're getting married again.
Oh.
And they're like,
let's
my
talk,
wife's a
let's
doctor
dive
or
into that.
something.
Let's dive into that because
Yeah.
I think you're giving it the serve. So, Florida is not what's called a community property state, which means that just because one person acquires a debt doesn't automatically obligate their
The other
spouse to
person.
that debt. Puerto Rico is a community property state, which means that regardless of who acquired the debt or who makes the money, all of the property that comes in the marriage is considered communal to the marriage. So when you're dealing with child support in Puerto Rico, they will consider your spouse's income when determining your child support. Let me clarify. So let's say you're not assuming it's child support, Department of Revenue in Puerto Rico, and you come over here and you want to get married to anyone over here. Well, under Puerto Rican law, your new wife, who is not in any way related to your children, her income can be considered for purposes of determining that man's or woman's child support award, unless you get a prenuptial agreement. So anybody, and again, this is probably great, if you have any Puerto Ricans that are coming over here who have child support issues in Puerto Rico and they want to get married, you better get that prenup. Otherwise, you're probably already mad about what the number's going to look like anyway, but it's going to be a lot higher just because they're going to consider your wife's income or your spouse's income when they do the numbers, and that could be significant. That could be.
Well, if they're a doctor, if they're a professional, they're a realtor,
right?
You know,
it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. But
even if they're making
for them, they'll be happy.
That you could be spending $200-300 more a month just because your wife's working. Like, that could be it. And then say, wait, then your spouse is probably thinking, wait, I'm indirectly supporting your children. That has created issues because unless you know the distinction of laws, Puerto Rico's old Spanish style type of law, and then Florida is not a community property state. It could create an issue.
Yeah.
So get a prenup.
Yeah. Well,
no matter where you're at.
So let me ask you guys this. So obviously, because time is just flying by here. So what's one thing that you would say that you would tell folks out there in the real estate space, whether they're realtors, real estate industry, or even just clients themselves? What's one thing that you should be on the lookout now that you're seeing that's reoccurring, that should be something of a kind of a heads up for folks out there?
Well, I mean, just most recently, I've been noticing an uptick in, I would call them wholesalers.
Right.
And I don't know if you want to define that better, but wholesalers are people who purchase the rights in a property. They go find somebody who's willing to sell their home, and then they say, hey, I'm going to buy it. They kind of present themselves as the quote-unquote investor, but they'll insert specific language that allows them to assign a contract. They may not even have the funds available, but they know, hey, if I get this property at a low price, it's worth $350,000. I can give you an example that I have right now. Property worth $350,000. They approach this old man. He doesn't speak any English. He's 80 years old. Literally has like 2 fingers left in toes from all the treatments and all the stuff he's going on. Signs a contract for $230,000. He owes about $190,000. So he thought, oh, okay, this, that, and the other, didn't review it with anybody, gets into this contract with the wholesaler. Now, this wholesaler is probably going to try to profit a tremendous amount. So I guess the story is this person is not a realtor. He's not a broker.
Right.
He has no sense of obligation. And also, more importantly, there's no administrative agency. There's no FREC or real estate commission or someone to come down on them. So my lesson to your listener would be always use an agent, a broker, a realtor. They have levels of obligations.
Yeah, they have to look after the client's best interest.
Absolutely, and that's really what it comes down to. And it's a scary thought. I'm actually in the process of undoing it because it's fraud and inducement. There's a lot more laws when it comes to elderly individuals, and the fact that he didn't know Spanish, and it's unconscionable that he would do this. But I'm doing this virtually pro bono because the man doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
So how this goes unchecked, probably it could be a mess.
Are you seeing more, because I'm starting to see more and more of this now, is because rates being so high now, where you're getting groups that are coming in and saying, hey, listen, I want to buy your house. I'm going to give you a little bit of cash, but you're going to stay on the mortgage. You're going to stay, because I want to keep that mortgage rate. And I'm basically going to rent the house out. You have no, involvement. You can't collect any of the rent. You have no, whatever, but you stay on the mortgage. And I guess it kind of you stay on the title, at least for now, right? They have some kind of an agreement, and then over a period of time, they basically will flip out, and they're getting a small amount of cash. So it's kind of like a joke. Are you seeing more and more scenarios like that come up?
So to answer your question, as far as these investors coming in, offering a sort of a cash some cash money,
Right.
so to speak, to get the interest in the property. A lot of the times they actually do take title. They make them sign a quitclaim deed, or not often, at least with a purchase option, because that's a little more complicated and it gives the actual person they're giving money to more rights than they probably want. So yeah, I've seen that. Unfortunately, I think I dealt with that recently. Somebody gave $30,000. It was $140,000 in equity. They did allow them to become renters of their own home. So this person's, the whole thing was just keep maintaining the mortgage payment for now. And they left them, I think it was like 6 months. But obviously with the owner, at some time, they can say, nope, I want you out. I own title to the property. I want you out.
Yeah.
I can rent what your mortgage payment, principal, interest, tax, and insurance is $1,500, which is unheard of. But these are houses. So, you get a 4.3.5, you can pretty well bet that you could make more than $1,500 in rent. Yeah. So then they kick out the owner. The owner, doesn't have any, they didn't know what they were doing. They start renting it for a period of time. And mind you, they can still sell it at any given time. They get a mortgage payoff.
Yeah.
So the person who got involved in this deal, and do not get involved in the deal, talk to an attorney, of course, talk to an agent, explain what the rights are, know what the value is, because they were better off just selling it. Just sell it outright. They could have had way more money, and perhaps if renting was the option, again, the agent probably could have gotten a rental,
yeah.
and they could have made that extra $80,000 in their pocket instead of basically thinking they're getting a favor done for them,
right.
which they're not. The investors keeping the low interest rate, the low payment, and now renting it out, making money, and then selling it at the long run.
So the best advice you can give is go talk to either someone like yourselves
get
or
that
a real estate professional to be able to kind of.
So we've done a lot of seminars at your guys' branches, and that's the first thing we start. Don't
Right.
practice law.
Yeah.
Speak to us.
Exactly.
Most attorneys don't charge you that initial consultation or that initial phone call.
Right.
Okay? And most attorneys will tell you, this is what's going on. Okay, come on in. Then they might charge you a consultation. Yeah. But it's going to save you a headache. It's going to save you, it's going to earn you money probably in the long run.
Right.
And the worst part is we get a lot of people like almost when it's too late.
Yeah.
Man, if you would have come to me 6 months ago, if you would have come to me, why didn't you? Oh, I didn't know.
But remember, now's the shameless plug. So, La Rosa agents, whoever you are, whoever's listening, just remember, a long time ago, Joe might probably doesn't remember, he'd always negotiated. If you contact Forrest Lake Law, yeah. and you're an actual La Rosa agent, to an extent to your friends, family, whatever, but if you're an actual La Rosa agent, just say you're a La Rosa agent. We'll give you a free consultation. The big benefit of that is that at some point you can always say, I spoke to an attorney and the attorney said this. That way you don't have to say, hey, I think you should do this or make this legal determination. No, I spoke to an attorney about your situation and this is what they said. You pin it on me. We got our license,
right,
and we don't get the unauthorized practice of law.
There you go. Because you can't get in trouble. You will
Absolutely.
get in trouble for practicing law.
Yeah, yeah.
Just saying, and the favorite one is like, oh, title is clean. Yeah. That's practicing law.
Yeah.
The title is clean. And then something happens.
Yeah.
And you're like, and the other part is, it's never the client that you're working with for the first time, realtors. It's always that client that you've done 10 deals with. And that 10th deal goes wrong. And then those are the ones that come and bite you in the butt. So just get in the, call us and we'll take care of it.
So saying that, where can folks, obviously, so we know all of our La Rosa agents, they know where to find you, right? So you guys have been obviously awesome partners. You guys are based there in one of our offices there in Lake Nona. But correct. Where can the everyday public?
So you could always call us, 407-796-2939. That's 407-796-2939. And you could also find us through our website, find us through Google, forrestlakelawcom. Put Forrest Lake Law on Google and you'll find our two offices. We are both on East Orlando and West Orlando. We have an office in Apopka. We have an office in Lake Nona. And nowadays with Zoom and everything, we could travel anywhere.
Yeah.
We could do everything. Most of our hearings are now.
Supuesto se habla español. Don't forget that.
Hablamos español. Estamos hablando chino también, pero we haven't learned massive Chinese yet.
So definitely. And Joe, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you both coming on. It's awesome. I mean, we could have been here for like hours talking about right.
The next one we gotta do after
Real
hours.
estate went a little bit into like family law, but that's all right, man. Hey, listen, it all plays into each other. Right?
Here's the thing. In family law, you're gonna get a lot of real estate.
Yeah.
You're gonna get people that want to sell their house. Yeah. And we usually recommend it's just a property, sell it.
Yeah.
Realtors, get yourself a family law attorney. If you want a marketing tool, find a family law attorney. We're the first ones to know before a house goes on the market that somebody needs a realtor.
That's right.
So if you want to get into bed with some new prospects, some new leads, find yourself a family law attorney. Get it, talk to them, take them out. They're always going to need a realtor. I already have, my network of realtors who know this about me. I get at least 1 or 2 a month. And these are listings, mind you, these are listings. So if you have a preference as to being the listing agent or the buyer's agent, I think listings are generally preferred.
Listings typically
preferred, but to the extent if you want to have somebody you don't have to fight for it, that's another marketing avenue for your agents and listeners.
Cool. All right, guys, listen, I appreciate you guys been on. Thanks so much for all you that are watching. We'll see you next time on the Joe La Rosa Show.